Picture this. You crack open an egg that's been preserved for an astounding 15 years. No spoilage, no funky smells, just a perfectly fresh egg ready for breakfast. Sounds impossible, right? But for the Amish, this is a reality, and they've been doing it for generations without a single ounce of electricity. While most of us rely on modern refrigeration, the Amish have found simple, time-tested methods to keep their eggs fresh for years. Join me on this journey as we explore their remarkable techniques that could revolutionize how we think about food preservation. The Amish approach to egg preservation, we've all heard the rules. Leave eggs out for too long, and you're risking disaster. Most people can't fathom that eggs could last longer than a week or two without refrigeration. However, the Amish have cracked the code to preserving eggs that could outlast your refrigerator's warranty. With their unique approach, they ensure a steady supply of fresh eggs without the hassle and expense of modern appliances. So how do they do it? Let's dive into one of their most trusted yet low-tech methods. Lime water preservation. Lime water. The egg's suit of armor. You might be thinking, what's lime water got to do with eggs? Well, trust me, it's a game changer. Lime water is essentially a solution made by dissolving calcium hydroxide, commonly known as slaked lime, in water. While that may sound fancy, it's been used for everything from construction to food preservation for centuries. Here's the science behind it. Eggshells are porous, allowing air and bacteria to sneak in and spoil the egg over time. But when you soak the eggs in lime water, the solution fills those tiny pores, creating an airtight seal. No air gets in, no bacteria gets in, and suddenly your eggs can survive for months, even years, without going bad. It's like giving the eggs a protective suit of armor, and bacteria simply can't win here. Historical perspective. Interestingly, the technique of using lime water for preservation isn't exclusive to the Amish. It dates back to medieval times when people needed creative ways to make their food last through the long winters. The Amish have perfected these age-old techniques, keeping traditions alive that many have forgotten. It's amusing to think about how something as simple as lime water can do what modern refrigerators can't. Most of us panic at the first sign of a fridge malfunction, but the Amish have developed solutions that don't rely on electricity. In fact, their methods could very well outlast a modern appliance, likely requiring fewer repairs along the way. Scale of preservation. What's truly impressive is the scale at which the Amish preserve their eggs. They're not just saving a dozen here and there. A single Amish family might preserve thousands of eggs in a year. This ensures they have a reliable supply no matter the season or circumstance. It's a level of preparedness that's hard to fathom unless you see it in action. I can barely keep track of the dozen eggs I buy from the store every week, but the Amish have it all figured out, with their eggs safely tucked away in lime water, just waiting to be used. The oiling method, a luxurious treatment for eggs. Now, let's talk about another fascinating technique the Amish use. Oiling. You heard that right, oiling. This method involves coating eggs in mineral oil, a harmless substance that seals the eggs and keeps them fresher for longer. You might be wondering why anyone would think to slather their groceries in oil. Well, the truth is, it's a time-honored method that prevents air and bacteria from entering the eggs. It's like encasing your eggs in a protective bubble. This approach might sound odd at first, like prepping eggs for a massage, but it works wonders. When I tried this method myself, I was surprised to find that after weeks in storage, the eggs remained as fresh as the day I bought them. Who knew that a little grease could work such wonders outside the kitchen? Historical context of oiling. The idea of coating food for preservation isn't a new concept. In ancient times, people would cover cheese and meat in fat to extend their shelf life. The concept of sealing food from air to preserve it has existed for centuries, even if we've largely forgotten it in the age of plastic wrap and vacuum sealers. What sets oiling apart is its simplicity. There's no complicated science involved. Just grab a bottle of mineral oil, coat each egg, and you're set. This method is accessible to anyone and can lead to eggs that last well beyond the typical expiration date. Vinegar, the versatile preservative. Next up in the Amish playbook of egg preservation is vinegar. Yes, that sharp, tangy liquid we often drizzle on fries or toss into salads also plays a vital role in keeping eggs fresh. How does it work? When it comes to vinegar preservation, the process is wonderfully straightforward. The Amish dip their eggs in a vinegar solution for a quick bath. The acidic nature of the vinegar works its magic by breaking down bacteria and forming a protective shield on the eggshell. It's almost like giving the eggs a protective armor upgrade. No swords or shields required, just a humble bottle of vinegar. Once the eggs have had their vinegar soak, they are primed to last much longer than your average carton sitting in the fridge. I used to think vinegar was merely for cooking or cleaning, but learning about its preservation power was an eye-opener. In fact, this technique has historical roots. Roman soldiers would use vinegar to keep their rations fresh during long marches. Who knew that a simple ingredient could have such a robust history? The broader uses of vinegar isn't just a one-trick pony. Its usefulness extends to various preservation methods. From pickling vegetables to preserving meats, vinegar has been an all-purpose survival tool for centuries. The Amish have tapped into this ancient kitchen hack, demonstrating that using natural ingredients can outsmart the ravages of time. While I haven't personally tried the vinegar dip on eggs yet, the thought of a stockpile of vinegar-soaked eggs tucked away for months is tantalizing. You could find yourself sitting on a golden stash of breakfast when the grocery store runs dry or, dare I say, during an apocalypse. Understanding spoilage. Now, let's get down to the nitty-gritty of what actually causes eggs to spoil. We've all had that moment of dread when cracking open an egg, only to find it's less than fresh. So, what's happening behind the scenes? The primary culprits are bacteria, air, and moisture. Eggs are ingeniously designed by nature, but they do have weak spots. Bacteria can sneak in through those tiny pores in the shell, moisture can build up, and air can lead to oxidation, all leading to spoilage. Here's where the Amish methods shine. While most of us shove our eggs into the fridge and hope for the best, the Amish actively combat these enemies. The lime water bath seals the shell's pores so that bacteria can't even get in. The oiling method locks the door and throws away the key, while the vinegar dip zaps any bacteria before it has a chance to party inside the egg. These aren't just random tricks. They're effective solutions to problems most of us don't even realize exist. I used to think my refrigerator was the ultimate hero in my egg-preserving saga. Little did I know it was more of an overhyped sidekick. Sure, refrigeration slows the process of spoilage, but it doesn't actually prevent it. The grocery store illusion. Did you know that the eggs you buy from the grocery store are often already weeks old by the time they hit the shelves? That's right. Most commercial eggs have been washed, which strips away their natural protective coating. So, while they may look shiny and new, they might be on the fast track to expiration by the time they reach your kitchen. In Europe, it's not unusual to see eggs sitting at room temperature in stores, as they often don't go through the same washing process. The US and a few other countries have established regulations that make refrigeration a necessity, driving the misconception that eggs must always be kept cold. While we scramble to fit everything into our fridges, the Amish are confidently leaving their eggs out for months, sometimes even years. Now, I'm not suggesting you start leaving your grocery store eggs out on the counter after bringing them home. Those eggs need refrigeration due to the washing process. However, it's fascinating to see how much of what we perceive as necessary is just a modern invention. The beauty of egg selection, when it comes to preserving eggs for years, the Amish don't just grab any old egg and toss it into lime water or oil. No, they're far more discerning than that. In fact, you could say they put their eggs through a rigorous beauty pageant before they're even considered for preservation. Freshness is the first criterion. The Amish won't bother preserving any eggs that are already a few days old. They have a keen eye and sometimes even a sharp nose for spotting eggs that are past their prime. It's like when you squeeze avocados at the store. Every egg undergoes the same scrutiny. They also perform a crack test. The Amish are experts at detecting even the tiniest hairline cracks. If an egg shows any signs of damage, it's immediately disqualified. Why? Because cracks are like open doors for bacteria. Imagine you're picking apples at the market and carefully inspecting every one for bruises and imperfections. That's the seriousness with which the Amish approach their eggs. Why all the effort? You might wonder why they go through all this trouble to hand-pick the perfect eggs. Simple. When you plan to store eggs for years rather than days or weeks, you need to start with the best possible product. A bad egg won't just ruin your dozen. It could lead to some serious regrets decades down the line when you crack it open. Nobody wants that level of disappointment, especially the Amish who pride themselves on doing things right the first time. And don't think this meticulous selection process is a one-time event. The Amish regularly check their preserved eggs over the months, even years, that they're stored away. Any sign of a bad egg and it's out. In fact, their motto could well be no bad eggs left behind. Dry storage, the time capsule effect. Among the various techniques, one of the simplest yet most effective methods the Amish use is dry storage. That's right, no fancy gadgets, no complicated recipes, just good old-fashioned cool, dry places where eggs can chill out like they're on vacation. You could even think of it as putting eggs in a time capsule. In many Amish homes, specially designed areas perfect for food preservation are commonplace. These spaces tend to be cooler and more humid than your average kitchen, creating an ideal environment for keeping eggs fresh without needing to crank up the fridge. Imagine finding a stash of eggs tucked away like a hidden treasure, but instead of gold doubloons, you get breakfast. The beauty of this method is that eggs have their own natural protective barriers. The sturdy shells keep the bad stuff out, as long as you don't crack them open too soon. The Amish simply let their eggs do their thing in a cool, dry place, waiting patiently for the right moment to be cracked and scrambled. Rethinking modern convenience. This approach highlights how many modern conveniences we take for granted. In a world where refrigeration is expected and food waste is rampant, the Amish show us that sometimes simplicity is key. Think about it. We often shove things into the fridge only to forget about them until it's too late. Ever found a forgotten carton of eggs at the back of your fridge that's practically an archaeological find? The Amish have mastered the art of not letting food go to waste by relying on their instincts and the natural processes. They don't stress about mold or weird smells, and because they trust their methods, they're not at the mercy of modern technology. The importance of safety. Now, let's tackle a critical question. Are these preserved eggs really safe to eat? It's a valid concern, especially if you've ever had that moment of dread when you crack open an egg, only to be hit with an unpleasant smell. Fortunately, the Amish have been preserving eggs for generations, and they know a thing or two about keeping their food safe. The key to egg preservation lies in how the eggs are treated and stored. When done correctly, these methods can keep eggs fresh for an astonishingly long time. The Amish utilize techniques like lime water soaking, oiling, and dry storage, which not only keep the eggs intact but also minimize the chances of any nasty surprises when it's time to cook. Imagine this. You have a stash of eggs ready for a baking marathon, and the only thing you need to worry about is whether you have enough chocolate chips. You might be surprised to learn that the preservation process itself can actually enhance safety. Fresh eggs come with a protective coating that helps prevent bacteria from entering. However, once that protective layer washed off, the clock starts ticking. When preserved properly, eggs maintain that natural barrier and can outlast anything you'd find in a grocery store. If you've ever stood in the egg aisle, you know that even the freshest-looking eggs can be deceptive. Those shiny, perfectly packaged eggs often have a backstory that would make you think twice. Spoiler alert. They're usually a few weeks old by the time they reach your kitchen. Trusting your senses, so how do you determine if a long-preserved egg is still good? The answer is simple. Trust your senses. One effective way to check is through the water test. Fill a bowl with water and gently drop the egg in. If it sinks and lies flat on the bottom, congratulations. You've got yourself a winner. This means the egg is still fresh and ready to be part of your next culinary masterpiece. However, if the egg stands upright or, heaven forbid, floats to the top, that's a major red flag. Time to say goodbye to that egg and make a mental note to avoid any future breakfast disasters. I remember my first encounter with the water test. I thought I was being adventurous by grabbing an older egg from my collection. To my dismay, it floated to the surface like a buoy in the ocean. Lesson learned. The thrill of adventure can quickly turn into regret when it comes to expired. Here's a pro tip. Even if an egg passes the water test, always use your nose as a backup. When you crack it open, take a good whiff. If there's even a hint of an off odor, think bad fish market on a hot day. Toss it out without hesitation. Your nose is an excellent judge of what's good. and the Amish rely on all their senses, so you should too. If you're feeling daring, you can even practice the float test on newer that are still slightly past their prime. This can be a great way to prepare for diving into long-term preservation while giving you an excuse to whip up delicious egg dishes like frittatas or fluffy omelets. Just make sure your friends aren't holding their breath as you crack them open. The suspense can be quite dramatic. The relevance of Amish techniques today, in a world where food waste is a staggering 30% of all production. The Amish methods of preserving eggs are more relevant than ever. If they can make eggs last for years without the aid of modern conveniences, surely we can learn a thing or two from their practices. Not only do these techniques save money, but they also reduce the number of trips to the grocery store. A win for everyone trying to avoid the latest overhyped health foods. Moreover, food preservation carries a sense of nostalgia that can connect generations. Imagine passing down family traditions of food preservation to your children or grandchildren. It's a lot more meaningful than scrolling through social media feeds. And let's not ignore the sustainability aspect. As food rise and environmental concerns grow, the Amish demonstrate that self-sufficiency is both practical and eco-friendly. Practical skills for emergencies. These skills are particularly vital in emergencies, such as power outages. Knowing how to preserve food can make a significant difference. Picture yourself as the go-to person for potlucks, proudly sharing a dish made from a 15-year-old egg. It's all about embracing a lifestyle that values sustainability and creativity. Whether you live in the city or the countryside, stepping away from the fridge to try food preservation could be a game changer. At the very least, you'll never have to panic about fridge space again.